First time to say all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bashim Al-Shah, Bashim Kakadash. I get double honor to elders, apostles, and teachers, minister, follower, and the truth. Now say Shalom to the hopeful elect of Israel. And I'm going to say this on, the topic of this shooting and also the division going on here in America. Because the whole scare behind the Iran war has ended. Even though it's still going on, there's still rockets being fired, niggas getting blown to smithereens. But the average American isn't really worried about that war and its ramifications because, gas prices have gone down. People have seemingly gone back to their fairly normal, I guess, lives, right? But that's still going on no matter what. But there's a lot of division going on in America as well. Even more so than before. And, you have it at your, obviously in your political sphere and whatnot, there's going to be a lot of division. But also, you have the whole thing with American citizens. That whole patriotic, compatriot spirit is gone. It's pretty much every man for himself. Which, long term, that's not something that can work for a nation. That's why when you go into our laws, pretty much it's a community. It's a community of people. But when you go into capitalism in America in the way in which Esau lives his life, it's pretty much every man for himself. And that's shown with your average workers, who pretty much are the foundational workers of your nation, which keep all of your companies, your businesses afloat. They're looked at as nothing and treated as nothing as well. And you have, shit like this, because you have a lot of crime with Jake, right? But you have way more crime with white people. And the amount of crime that white people commit, the thing about it is that the scale is way larger. For example, Jake will sell drugs to the people in his community. He'll kill a couple people. But the so-called white man will bomb out countries and villages, poison proverbial wells, poison actual wells, poison water, get rid of history, deny history, rewrite history, and actually have it be widely accepted. Because you have a lot of Edomites that are talking about how, the Israelite, how we're not the Israelites. Where you have different artifacts. So I think it's Lost Luna Stone, and there's another stone in which is the Latin tribes and native tribes. Those are artifacts that had Hebrew, broken forms of Hebrew written on them. And you got scriptures that talk about how the northern kingdoms or northern tribes came to the Americas. And you have those different artifacts which were pushed out of the news, pushed out of people's view. And that should prompt people to ask a question. But so-called white man will cover all that shit up. He'll steal nations, he'll steal nation leaders, and act like it isn't a crime because America can do no wrong. So that's the difference between Jake crime and Edomite crime. Which crime is still crime no matter what. But you can't sit here and act as if the things that Jake do are worse than what your government fucking does. And what the niggas who are in power does. For example, when you go into the whole video game thing, because there's a lot of stuff going on within video game companies. For example, there's a lot of AI that's pushing out those people with jobs. But also there was recently, I think it was PlayStation, that had announced that they would no longer be making CDs for newer video games starting in 2027 or 2028. The thing about that is that something else they did was that they had got people, you can buy movies on PlayStation. I think it was Xbox is doing the same thing too. But people that bought movies on PlayStation, I think it was like from a certain year on back, PlayStation pretty much took those movies out of those people's account without giving them a refund. But also, when you go into video games, you think that when you buy a video game, you own it. But PlayStation is getting more into the idea, and they're actually putting it into place to where you would have to download certain types of software that in order to play the game. And if you didn't download that software, then you would be locked out of playing that game even though you bought it. So what pretty much what I'm getting at is that they utilize a lot of this technology, a lot of these different these different laws that they make up. They're taking away people's rights in the video game thing. And that's going to echo across everywhere else, because you have various different I think it's I don't know if it's Mercedes or like different car companies, like luxury car companies, where things like heated seats, in order for you to get heated seats, you have to subscribe. But the reason why I bring this up, why, is because this is what this nigga's doing. He's literally getting rid of your rights. Things, and like, once again, you could say it's just video games, but that shit's going to spill over to everything else. All these other companies are going to take they're going to that's an example for them to repurpose their business models. Right? So that's something that Esau is doing, taking away your rights right in fucking front of you. And that type of shit, that's when we talk about how with the MOTB, that's going to be a major instituted thing, because everything is damn near on subscription. Netflix, everything's damn near on subscription. It's just a few more steps and a few more laws for them to put into place for it to lock everything down. Right? But once again, that's the difference between the crime that Jake commits and the crime that the so-called white man commits. That's why when you come to things like slavery, because you hear a lot of Edomites that are upset and tired of hearing about slavery. Well, for one, you niggas have only been hearing it for about 20, 30, 40, maybe 50 fucking years. How do you think our people feel having gone through this shit? But then when somebody wags your finger at you, tell you how your people are fucked up for a few decades, then you get upset. Imagine having gone through that and getting your ass beat for hundreds of fucking years. You niggas don't have the right to fucking complain. But this is no murder charges issued for. Apparently this Jake didn't get put on fucking. Going on, but you have the average American, once again, that has a because like even with the whole like Carmelo Anthony thing, because this is coming off of that, right? And that pushed that that increased the divide, because we talk about how there's going to be race wars, and that whole thing pushed up the divide that's going on between Esau and Jake, because for the longest time Esau has been tolerating Jake, but now they're showing who they really are, because you got a lot of Edomites that want that race war, especially like these older Edomites. Even with like the younger ones, right? you have some of those guys who may have grew up, with military families or whatnot, that want that race war. But that division is always going to be there, whether it's Jake versus Esau or whether it's shit that's falling apart in America. Isaiah 19:2. Thou hast set the Egyptians, 19:1, the burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, and the isles of Egypt shall be moved at his presence. And that's actually what happened at ancient Egypt as well, but this is also what's going to happen in America. Because when you go into those plagues, you can look it up, all of those plagues, because like Egypt had gods for fucking everything. And even in America's, right? America takes after Egypt. Technically, they have, like, we look into the different traditions and different types of things, they have gods for everything, right? And even the niggas who are at the top of the society, they bow down to like various different demons and satans, but they acknowledge that there's like different gods of different things. But those plagues were in direct opposition to those gods of Egypt, and pretty much that was a jab to say, let's see if your gods can save you. Right? For example, I know there's a Egyptian god Ra, and there was some other sun god which represented like the sun and light. But obviously, when darkness fell over the land, those people would pray to their sun god for light, but that light never fucking came. Right? But here in America, you have those, these different traditions going back to these false idols, but also you have the people and these leaders that are looked at as gods and idols as well. People like looking at Trump as a savior, as a hero. People look at him like he's Jesus or some shit like that. Well, I think Trump said that he was sent by God to fix America or some shit like that. And the isles of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. And once again, the whole spirit, and I think the scripture that mentions how the spirit too, but the whole spirit of being a patriot, that's all going down the fucking drain. You have some Edomites that are fighting back at that, but you have a ton of more niggas and Edomites who are pissed the fuck off because they can't live, because everything is turning into a subscription. Because all of these things that they believed in and loved at one point is going to shit. Video games, for example. Which, to me personally, came out of left fucking field. Because that's not something that you normally think is going through a shit situation. But it is. You got tons of Edomites on fucking government benefits. And they're on government benefits more than Jake. But these are things that the so-called white man push against. He doesn't push out into the open that there are most of the recipients of governmental benefits like SNAP and things like that, Section 8, are white people. But it's being pushed that that's Jake. Right? Isaiah 19:2. And I'll set the Egyptians against the Egyptians. They shall fight everyone against his brother and everyone against his neighbor. City against city and kingdom against kingdom. That says right here. Right? And you're going to have that during Jacob's trouble, but even now you have it. There's a lot of white on white crime. There's a lot of fucking, interracial crime and, political problems and shit like that. There was this, I forgot this guy's name, but there was a couple years ago, I forgot this nigga's name, but it was in Detroit downtown where there was some type of rally, and it's this educated little skinny nigga that I think he was, I forgot what he was pushing. I think he was trying to push like equality and shit, but he was with some Edomite, like it was a rally with like Edomites, and I think he tried to push like he's an equality, that he's one of them, but the nigga got pretty much The crowd of Edomites jumped this nigga and literally rolled him up the street. He was literally fucking rolling. I forgot the nigga's name, but this shit was hilarious. They literally rolled this nigga up the fucking street. Like literally. Like rolling. But no, that's an example of that. How it doesn't matter how much you try to integrate, how much education you have, how many degrees you have, there's always going to be that divide. And it was there from the garden. Through Cain and Abel, through Jacob and Esau, from the womb, and now down to Esau and Jacob's descendants. And to be honest, things were never like that, in which everybody just got along and integrated. There was always division, right? Verse 3, the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and now destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to the idols, to the charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits, and the wizards. And the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, and fierce king shall rule over them, said Lord of hosts. And which is Trump. To which under all of this shit is happening under everybody's radar, by the way. For example, like I said, the video game thing, that came out left fucking field. You wouldn't think that whole industry is catching hell, but those nerds are actively taking away rights and making fucking big moves on people. And all of these other bigger companies, once again, are going to take example from that, whether it be, some type of car company or motherfucking Neuralink. But that's pretty much it. I hope it made sense. Y'all praise going on to you. How about you, my Shabbat Shalom, Dash the West as part of teaching great mission for all the truth. Shalom to the Israel, instruction about Great America.